My name is Joshua Beasley, and have you ever wondered why the criminal justice system has more Black and Latinx communities making most of their population? Even though their socioeconomic status plays a major role in the cycle of incarceration, and those in the lower echelon of the working class and underprivileged, i.e., the minority groups fitting that criteria like the Latinx and the Black communities, are caught in the loop of incarceration and criminalization. Through the theater of law, my own personal experience, and life circumstances, I will expose the bias the U.S. have had for over 400 years in relation to our cultural society of incarceration. Do you know about the revolution? The revolution is when the civil rights will have another movement to further equality among minorities, like how there is for the white Americans in regards to police brutality, equal treatment without bias or discrimination in the US, even unequal treatment from white Americans. That still happens on a day-to-day basis. But what I'm first going to talk about here is the history of the United States in relation to the Jim Crow era. I'm trying In trying to keep his slaves disunited, Master Lynch argued the old should be pitted against the young, the dark against the light, the male against the female, and so on. Such disunifying tactics will control the slaves for at least 300 years, he guaranteed. And that, it seems, is why Black people can't get ahead now, because of that Lynch letter of Jim Crow. In 1751, that letter was written and spoken in a speech concerning on how to train your slaves. Even had practices of lynches, which is a very inhumane, violent act where they hang African Americans in the South just for being African American. So how does this history relate to our criminal justice system? Well, as time builds and morals getting renewed and people starting to see things more ethical, we start treating people more equally in society in public. But what about closed doors? What about in private? How do we know that there isn't a subconscious thought pattern that relates to their Caucasian ancestry's old way of thinking? How do we know? Do you know that perception is custom made, custom tailored to your own cultural lens, meaning whoever raised you and helped develop you, culturally speaking, you will see what they see as their bias becomes your bias. In today's era, our criminal justice system is an era of colorblindness. Race is no longer used to justify discrimination, exclusion, and social contempt. Instead, officials use criminal justice system to label persons of color as criminals. And then they use this label to continue to use old forms of discrimination, like employment discrimination, housing discrimination, denial of the right to vote for felons, denial of education opportunity, denial of food stamps and other public benefits. Shoot, even exclusion from the jury service. In my experience within the criminal justice system was that in my incarceration, I presented myself with rhetorical questions. I was trying to find philosophical meaning in my stay there, why I was even put here, why I put myself in the position to be here in jail. As I was doing it in jail, I've been treated with unfair treatment, treated as a number, not a human, and was basic survival from the moment I stepped into jail. I've been jumped, I've been beat up by fellow inmates and CO officers thinking I was the prime suspect just because my skin pigmentation matched. Only reason. Needs to be fixed. Known experiences with police brutality. I've been in a police brutality case within Santa Barbara, and I don't know if you know about this. I was beaten up by 5 different police officers in Santa Barbara in front of 7-Eleven over on Mission and State Street. But have you not known, or you've definitely heard of like Trayvon Martin, George Floyd, you know, all these different things. What happened to these police officers? A simple suspension would do. That's the only thing that was used for, you know what I'm saying? That was used for punishment, for, you know, like, I guess you could say payback from what had just transpired. You know, a simple suspension would do. Treatment, I have to say that our knowledge, or we as a minority, the Latinx and the Black community, our third knowledge of knowing how to protect ourselves legally was taken from us. We were never taught how to do that, how to protect our innocence, legally speaking, within the society's way of doing. With our progression from slavery to equality to now entrepreneurs and businessmen and successful people, it's now we are evolving to more educated and less ignorant homeostasis. So today, to conclude, I like to say that this discrimination on race and class began years ago through the culture of American ancestry, from enslavement of colored humans to Jim Crow, to the subconscious behaviors that align with Jim Crow's state of mind. This train of thought and behavior still exists today in the world that you live in, you and I live in. You know, you can see the discrimination if you have seen slavery as unethical and immoral. But if you see slavery as justifiable, the discrimination that I am talking about will go through one ear out the other. You will not have no correlation of it. You know, the minority groups like the Latinx and Black communities are caught in the loop of incarceration, even though their socioeconomic status plays a major role in the cycle of incarceration. Race still plays a factor in today's era of color blindness, where it's no longer a discriminatory trait. In our criminal justice world, our justice is not necessarily who is right that wins, but who can prove their cause legally. And I'd like to leave you with that. Have a wonderful day.